In 2024, March Madness broke new ground. For the first time in its history, the women's final attracted more viewers than the men's, and this was really just symbolic of a wider trend across college basketball as a whole. So, what's happened? Why is the women's sport growing and the men's in decline? Well, historically, basketball players would go from high school to college, where they would spend 4 years before being drafted into the NBA. This was a pathway followed by the greats of the game like Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, and Larry Bird. But in the mid-90s, Kevin Garnett and Kobe Bryant started something of a trend by going straight from high school to the NBA. Before Garnett's selection by the Minnesota Timberwolves in 1995, just 2 players had made that jump. By 2006, that number was 41. Now, to counteract this, the NBA introduced a rule stating that players could only be drafted once they were at least 19 years of age. This would force them to play at least 1 year in college and became known as the one and done rule. It was introduced to protect the standards of college basketball, but in reality, it's had the opposite effect. In 2006, Kevin Durant would almost certainly have gone straight from high school to the NBA, were it not for the one and done rule. Instead, after finishing school, he went to the University of Texas. But as you might have guessed, rather than spending 4 years at college, he was drafted to the Seattle Supersonics as soon as he'd finished his first year. Now, Durant has gone on to become a 15-time All-Star and a 2-time NBA champion, and many others have followed in his footsteps, meaning that the best men's talent rarely stays at the college level for too long. In total, there have been 117 one-and-done players since the rule came into effect, including 15 of the last 18 first overall draft picks. The only number 1 pick to have played at least 2 years in college during his time was Blake Griffin, who played 2 seasons at Oklahoma before the Clippers drafted him. And then there's financial incentives. Even with the recent changes to name, image, likeness rules, allowing college athletes to earn money from sponsorships, the financial allure of professional sport remains a huge reason why many of the best young players are choosing to skip the final 3 years of college. In the 2024 draft, USC freshman Isaiah Collier was drafted as the 29th first-round pick by the Utah Jazz, but he will still earn a salary of over $2.5 million in his first year. The NBA collective bargaining agreement means that rookies are guaranteed 2-year contracts, so regardless of his performance, Collier will receive a similar salary in his second year before getting the opportunity to extend and increase his deal in his third and fourth years. So this is an obvious draw. Now, unlike in the men's game, there is no one-and-done rule in women's college basketball. Instead, the WNBA requires that players have either graduated from college, or they're within 3 months of doing so, or they turn 22 within that calendar year before they can be admitted to the draft. This means players will spend all 4 years in college before going pro, allowing them to grow and develop in front of college fans, which has been fundamental to the growth in popularity of the sport. Stars like Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese have gone into the WNBA as fully fledged stars, with huge individual fan bases as a result. And crucially, the increase in recognizable names has also allowed narratives to play out on the college basketball scene, making it appointment viewing. In 2024, fans tuned into the match between the Iowa Hawkeyes and the LSU Tigers to see the rivalry between Clark and Reese as much as they did to see which team would progress to the Final Four of March Madness, whereas the men's game has struggled to develop household stars in college. And even if there was a one-and-done rule, the financial incentives to make the early jump to the WNBA are not nearly as appealing. The league's collective bargaining agreement means that the number 1 overall draft pick will get a salary of just $78,000 in their first year. Caitlin Clark, for example, made far more money at Iowa than she does from her first pro contract. Now, there have been some suggestions that with stars like Clark and Reese now away from college basketball and in the WNBA, that the sport's popularity will prove to be little more than a flash in the pan. But the reality is that 4 of the top 5 most followed college basketball players on Instagram right now are women.
If you like this video, please consider subscribing to the channel. The Athletic is home to the best team of sports writers, reporters, and analysts in the world, offering exclusive stories and unrivaled insight. You could try The Athletic for free for 30 days by clicking the link in the description.